It was just, good afternoon. It is 2 o'clock, and I'd like to call to order the May 10th meeting of the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the April 26th meeting. Are there any questions or discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, is there a motion for approval? We have a motion and a second. And it's approved. Thank you. Next up, the consent docket. There are a number of items on the consent docket, some change orders and some scope changes, some permits. I think the largest item on the agenda is probably the contract agreement. Well, it was a minute ago. On the computer system. What item is that? Yes. Item C. You want to tell us about item C a little bit, Mr. Weingarten?
Certainly. That item is to revise our business processes in the computer system so that we can handle the new automatic meter reading system and change some of our processes as we phase that in over the next 8 years. So we have to upgrade certain things. We have to upgrade the software, the devices that we use to read the meters in the field. The software that goes with that also is being replaced with a different software product, and that includes the integration services for that as well.
So this is a little bit offline, but on the same project, but what is the timeline, again, on the implementation of the automated meter reading?
We've begun the project. First phase will be a pilot of about 5,000 meters. We anticipate all the parts coming in by August and initiating the pilot. And then we will do an implementation over 8 years thereafter in the 20 to 30,000 meters a year.
And there's 180,000?
There's
200?
240,000 now.
240. Wow.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions regarding the consent docket? Seeing none, is there a motion for approval? We have a motion. We have a second. Please vote. And it passes unanimously. Item 4 is the concurrent docket. There are 2 items on the concurrent docket. Neither one has any AQUIT funds involved in it. Questions or comments on the concurrent docket? If not, is there a motion for approval? Please vote. And it passes unanimously. There are no items under the emergency construction contracts. Next up are items for individual consideration. Item 6A is ratifying an improvement contract with Crossland Heavy Contractors for an ozone system expansion upgrades at the Hefner Water Treatment Plant.
We have an explanation of that?
Do we what?
Do we have an explanation of that?
Mr. Larry Hare can answer questions on that work for that line item on ozone.
Can you give us a little background and tell us what the expansion consists of, please?
Sure. As I discussed in the last trust meeting when we amended the Suez contract for ozone equipment, the Hefner Water Treatment Plant actually produces ozone on site in order to treat the water as it's coming in from the lake. And it reduces the taste and odor concept from the raw water lake, the raw water coming from the lake. The system was first put in place in 1994. It's aged, it's not really keeping up with what's going on as far as what the raw water quality coming into the lake is now. We also have a regime that when we do the interconnect between the Hefner and the Draper water systems, that we can dial down the Hefner treatment plant to maybe 10 million gallons a day instead of its full 100 million gallons a day, and let Draper take the majority of the load. That way we could conserve upon the raw water storage in Lake Hefner. And then during the wintertime, we can ramp up Hefner and then maybe dial Draper down in order to bring more water from southeast Oklahoma and replenish that reserve right there. I would assume it would take about 3 years. There's some long lead items going on here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions or comments regarding the ozone system at Lake Hefner? Seeing none, is there a motion for approval? We have a motion and a second. Please vote. And it passes unanimously. Item 6B is an agreement with CDM Smith regarding their contract for the pump stations along the southeast Oklahoma raw water supply system. Mr. Hare?
Yes, sir. This engineering contract has a long storied history where we engaged the services of Camp Dresser and McGee, then called CDM, back in 2011 in order to start looking at concepts on bringing in water from southeast Oklahoma up here toward Draper. And it's not just related to only the Atoka pipeline system, but also incorporating elements of the McGee Creek pipeline and its possible expansion, and bringing water from the Kiamichi River and Sardis Lake, and bringing all of that up to Oklahoma City. So in 2012, we amended their, I'm sorry, in 2012, we amended their contract to incorporate just their corporate name change. They went from Camp Dresser McGee to CDM Smith, so that was at no cost. In 2013 and in 2014, we amended their contract to provide legal support and modeling for obtaining the permit for the Kiamichi River and Sardis Lake, because at that time we were in kind of like mediation with the state and a couple of Indian tribes at that time. In 2015 is amendment number 4, which was for $16 million. And that went into more of the meat of the design for new pump stations and a phasing of the project so that we can have, they discovered that we could only, at this first phase, we'll only need 3 pump stations instead of the original 6 to bring 90 million gallons of water up into the area. We were also looking at the possibility of either a 72-inch or a 66-inch line at that time. In 2016, we amended their contract again in order to provide more modeling to see what the difference between doing a 66-inch main versus a 72-inch main coming up the line may look like. We may be able to defer the costs of a future pump station and future water lines so that we're not bothering the landowners along this 100-mile stretch yet again. In 2018, we amended their contract one more time to provide more legal support for the permit for the southeast region water. And in 2018, we also did the same thing. So in this amendment, when amendment number 4 was negotiated, we were looking at that time, the cost for all 3 pump stations at about $90 million total. Unfortunately, now the current estimates have it around almost $50 million per pump station. So you're looking at about almost $150 million for one construction packet. So this amendment breaks up those already designed pump stations from one project into 3 different projects. And During the modeling in 2016, we discovered that on the station sites that we're not going to be putting new pump stations, we will need some protection against water pressure surges. And so that's part of the new design that's going to be a part of this amendment here, to put in those protective measurements. Also not included in Amendment 4 was inspection for the new construction going on. That's about it in a nutshell.
All right. Any other questions of Mr. Hare regarding item 6B? Seeing none, is there a motion for approval? Please vote. It's approved unanimously. Items from trustees. Do we have any comments this morning or this afternoon? General manager reports.
Everything is running as we expected it to, and we're ready to enter the summer period. We are doing some final repairs on some of our water plants, so we're ready to meet the demand as it increases, and we're hoping to get that done soon.
All right. Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Weingart? I'm not aware of any citizens to be heard. There's no further business before the trust, therefore we are adjourned. Thank you.